Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. I hope you guys are continuing to enjoy our new home of Football Daily. It's been a good few weeks for Continental Club. The views are flying, so thank you very much. I'm joined by Henry Hill and Michael McCubbin as ever. Henri, are you well on this Wednesday afternoon?
Yeah, really good, thank you. I'm quite sad to see Osasuna have been kicked out of the Conference League. For
historical match fixing.
Yeah, apparently it's to do with like 2013-14, directors who aren't even at the club anymore. For a club like Osasuna, who this is not an opportunity that's going to come around very often, I do feel really bad for them, actually. I think, let's see if they appeal. If they've done something really bad, then so be it. But yeah, just quickly, Atleti Zone, he keeps messaging me, asking me to talk about Atletico. So I'll just give a quick shout out. The Javier Galán transfer, we like it.
Yes.
We like it. Good. Very good. Yeah, have fun with Simeone. But yeah, for like €4 million, unreal. Any good transfers you've seen, do you think?
Oh, the bad thing about that deal is that Manu Sanchez had to go the other way, and he's very highly rated, but was at Osasuna last year, amidst the chaos of Osasuna. No, it feels like it's very much historical with Osasuna, doesn't it? But I think Atleti fans are a little bit sad that this 22-year-old has gone the other way because Javier Galan's 28. What else has been going on?
I saw you like Kondogbia.
To Marseille, yeah. I mean, he's worked under Marcelino, of course, at Valencia, of course. I think he's quite an underrated defensive midfielder, although we had a difference of opinion on that. Henry thinks he's very overrated.
Well, I just think he's a myth. I've never seen him, but he's sort of moved around to all these amazing clubs, and I just get nervous when
he's a 20 league game a season.
Yeah.
I think Simeone didn't rate him last season, did he? Which I think was a bit like maybe a little bit of a down reflection on a defensive midfielder, but
he was on Team Henry McCubb.
I talked about him a couple of months ago, saying that Atleti just shouldn't sign a new contract with Atleti, and I think that's probably the best thing. The fact that they've managed to sell him to Marseille is great, to be honest. Like, clearly Simeone doesn't rate him, but then we were also talking about how, I know he's a defensive midfielder, but like when Koke has kind of changed his role to be more defensive, and he's prioritised over Kondogbia. Yeah, it's not a great sign, but equally, De Paul and Lamar have had to like change their games massively, haven't they? Like, being a midfielder at Atletico Madrid is not an easy job. So it shouldn't be too bad a reflection on him. Like,
speaking of myths, I think Koke's got to be included in that, to be honest. His entire career just so overrated.
Come on, he plays for Spain. He starts for Spain.
He's fine. He is fine. He was supposed to be the next Xavier Iniesta. Never seen it personally.
That is getting clipped out, and you are going to receive another load of abuse from
it's about
fans.
My yearly abuse from Atletico fans. I might have just set them off again. But guys, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the show. Today we'll talk about WONDERKIDS and the perfect destination for them. We are going to kick off with Arda Guler because it's been the talk of the town this week. He is supposedly close to joining Real Madrid, and at the Fev, a Turkish football expert, sent in this video on his strengths, weaknesses and how he thinks he's going to do over in Madrid. Have a watch.
Arda is a footballer where the ball seems to stick to his feet, which is a very important detail to conclude that we are dealing with a natural talent. Due to a particularly stubborn coach in Giorgi Jesus, Fenerbahce is about to lose its greatest talent in years for a bargain price. The Portuguese coach often refused to line up Arda during last season, despite pressure from the chairman, board and the Turkish press. Why Jesus didn't use Arda becomes more remarkable by the week. Guler has a clause in his contract that if the 1,500 playing minutes are not reached, he can leave for €17.5 million. All arrows are currently pointing towards Madrid. There is the thought that he may be allowed to stay longer at Fenerbahce and not have to make the move immediately. I don't know what exactly is better. The step between Fenerbahce and Real Madrid is huge at the moment. It will not decrease if he stays in Istanbul for another year. Is he already good enough to play amongst the stars of Madrid? I will always find it very difficult to assess those kind of issues. The imminent possible departure of Carlo Ancelotti will not help in my opinion. Ancelotti has shown in recent seasons that he is willing and able to use new young players. We live in a period where a lot is about hype. I hope he can withstand the storm ahead should he leave for a club with so much football heritage. All of Turkey will be watching all his adventures, and I think from the moment he leaves the club, all Fenerbahce supporters will be looking forward to an eventual reunion after his adventures in Europe.
Henry, you probably, out of the three of us, take most interest in Turkish football. Are you excited about Arda Guler going to Real Madrid? Do you think it's a step too far too soon? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I discussed it a few weeks ago. I think he does look like the real deal, doesn't he? He's very exciting on the ball. Fenerbahce really did not want to let him go whatsoever this year, and we saw him score that incredible goal against Wales for Turkey, become the youngest goal scorer in Turkish history. I mean, he's breaking records. I think the youngest goal scorer in Super League history as well. He's really made a impression for that Fenerbahce side. And just to repeat what I said before, go check out the Turkish Cup final highlights against Başakşehir. Unbelievable in that game there. But yeah, Real Madrid, who claimed they weren't going to buy anyone, that claimed they were finished for the rest of the window, have come and sort of... I mean, you can just imagine Flo Perez enjoying this. Barcelona going in for a young Turkish talent. He's thought, hold on a second.
I want a little bit of this.
Yeah, we'll get involved in that too. And it looks like, he had a release clause of about 17.5 million. Looks as if there was a bit of a bidding war. They've gone above that, gone for 20 million euros. And I think considering he's 18 years old, as exciting as he is, it's tricky. It is tricky because you never know really of the Super League if he's the real deal. I would say, having watched him, that technically he's a lot more gifted than you'd expect to come out of that division. I think this is really an investment worth making. And to be honest, for a club like Real Madrid, 20 million euros, it really...
I think it's a snip.
It's an absolute... Yeah.
Yeah, like Madrid are in such a good financial position at this moment in time. For him, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. I think it definitely also illustrates kind of where those two clubs are at the moment. Like Madrid, very much now seen as the club in terms of developing young talent. They can sign him. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he goes there and then he gets sent on loan to a kind of middling Spanish club potentially next season. Because I do think like it would still be hard for him in that Real Madrid team this season.
Yeah,
When you agree, like I know Asensio's gone and he can play on the right, but I feel like this season coming up is going to be the season of Rodrigo there. So yeah, but it's super exciting though. Like I think, I don't think there's too much to lose there because I think, this is a player who probably will command at least 30, 40 million in years to come if he can make an impression on loan somewhere. Like it feels fairly risk-free, especially considering the kind of prices that they've paid for kind of Brazilian wonderkids in years gone by. Endrick coming next year as well. So yeah, I mean, it just feels like Real are just getting... It just feels like they're getting their man every single time, and to kind of come out of nowhere seemingly and get Guler is just... I think, it's just a sign of how confident they are at operating in this market. I don't think there really is another club outside of the Premier League that has kind of retained that kind of power in the market. So yeah, it's just again like another sign that their kind of shift in transfer policy since kind of 2018 has just like continues to pay off.
Yeah, for sure. I also think it's just such a benefit of having funds available. Like Barcelona would probably have to take weeks of negotiations and moving funds around to even pay a 20 million euro fee on someone. So it feels like Real Madrid are much freer in that position. It'll be interesting to see if he does stay at Real Madrid where he'll play, because there's been talk in the last month or so that Real Madrid are going to play a 4-box midfield or diamond midfield and then 2 up front with Rodrigo and Vinicius, because Joselu's probably not good enough to start for them consistently. And he could potentially play that 10 role and maybe alternate with someone like Fede Valverde or Bellingham potentially. I mean, they've got so many midfield options.
They've also got Brahim Diaz, who's going back next season. I think he'll only have signed a new deal if he was guaranteed some kind of involvement. And after what he's done at AC Milan, he does deserve an opportunity to really prove himself, I think, in this Madrid side. And I think he will get opportunities there. So yeah, it's really smart from them. I think Mesut Ozil's come out and said that Guler is as good as he's claiming to be. And I know like Ozil, in this point of his career, has sort of taken a bit of a dive in terms of his credibility. But, this is someone that ultimately does know what he's talking about at the very top level. And I think, if he's backing his corner, then I think that this guy could be really special. I'm excited to see.
For a fact that Ozil watches a lot of Super League as well. Like it's not like he's just like putting him out there because he's a wonder kid. Like he must have watched
former teammates, of course, as well. And I feel like Ozil, he might not have the most, on point opinions about Arsenal, but he certainly knows about number 10s. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And as we say, even if it doesn't work out, like Odegaard, like Hakimi, they can sell him in a few years' time and probably get a really hefty profit. So I think it's pretty low risk.
Just one more thing on Barcelona. If it's true that they've got Vitor Roque, then that's smart. That's really, they do need a forward down the line. That is an area they need to fill. Madrid arguably do need to get another forward. You just said Joselu. I think he'll probably get some more minutes there. I think he sort of fits into a puzzle. He's not an incredible footballer, but let's face it, he'll probably score some goals next season for them. Vitor Roque, though, for about a 40 million euro investment, I think that's really smart from Barcelona as another wonder kid, which they're focusing on. I think they can be happy with that.
Fair enough. Well, on the topic of La Liga, let's talk about one of La Liga's golden boys last year, Gabri Veiga. Henry, he has been linked with a number of clubs, including Liverpool and Chelsea, most notably in the Premier League, I think. But it now seems like he's going to go to PSG.
Yeah, I mean, essentially this Szoboszlai deal has kind of knocked out opportunities for other players to go to Liverpool. Yeah. That's a big, hefty investment, isn't it? Let's face it, on Szoboszlai. Gabri Veiga, I really like this guy. I'm surprised to see at the Euros under 21s, he's not starting for their Spanish side. He's actually behind the likes of Alex Baena in that squad. But if you look at some of his performances last season for Celta Vigo, really, really exciting player. Started a lot deeper. By the end of the season was playing more behind the striker, arriving in the box. Scored 11 goals, got 4 assists. 4 of his goals were from outside the box. And if you look at his finishing, the show reel is really impressive. He can generate power from nothing. He deft flicks over the goalkeeper. He's amazing at bursting past defenders. He's very quick. And I think he's definitely got a huge future. And actually, if you look at that PSG midfield, yeah, I can see him going in there. We were talking about it. I think you guys talked about it on Sunday Vibes. Actually, PSG need a bit more muscle, a bit more strength in that midfield. Gabri Veiga's tackling numbers aren't huge, but then again, he wasn't being really asked to tackle. He was more tasked with going forward at the end of the season. And he is 6 foot. He's not small. He's quite big for.
He's quite un-Spanish for a midfielder. Like he's not like. Yeah, I haven't really seen many like kind of young Spanish midfielders come through who are kind of his profile.
No,
so he's almost a bit more like an old school like English centre mid, kind of box to box, kind of Frank Lampard style. Whisper it. Maybe it's just because he scores a lot of goals. True. I'm saying that maybe a bit lazy, but like he is, he is quite big, which I guess I guess there's a reason why like English clubs have come in for him a little bit, because he already looks quite physically cut out to come into like a top side and perform.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. There's no surprise to see the amount of interest that there is in him. And when you look at that PSG squad, obviously they've lost Messi, who was their chief creator last season. They do need a bit more creativity. I was looking at sort of the rest of their midfield that sort of play. There's that midfield 5 and then the 3 midfielders in the middle. Only 7 assists between the likes of Fabian Ruiz, Renato Sanchez, Carlos Soler, Vitinha. I expect that to go up because Messi's not there and because there's going to be more reliance on them to drive the ball forward. But I can see why they'd be interested in Gabri Veiga to go in there and try and create more opportunities. His expected goals last year was 6.1, so that shows that he was really scoring some spectacular finishes, but he did create about 6 or 7 big chances across the campaign. So on that regard, yeah, stick Mbappe and potentially Neymar in front of him, and I think you're going to see a really great return. My one concern is he's only had 1 season as a top professional. Yeah. The idea to then put the weight and pressure on him to go to a club like PSG and be that guy, I think is a lot of pressure. But that said, there are going to be other options in there to rotate with. Vitinha, Soler, who maybe not doesn't have a future, but Fabian Ruiz as well. So I like this move from PSG. I think it's sensible, but I also think someone like Chelsea would be smart to go in for him too. I think more as like a Mount replacement. I think Gabri Veiga would be quite a nice option, actually.
Yeah. I think it's a big ask for him to instantly go in there and succeed, though. I mean, you look at even Fabian Ruiz and his relative struggles for game time and effectiveness there. Carlos Soler was one of the outstanding midfielders in La Liga outside of the big 3 in the previous years. I mean, I know he scored a lot of penalties, but still had a burgeoning reputation. Renato Sanchez as well, really highly rated whenever he's fit. And none of these players have really hit the ground running. Now, it's a new era again at PSG once again with Luis Enrique, Spanish coach. Maybe that will help him as well. But I just think it's a big ask to go from Celta Vigo, a club that have been battling relegation or lower to mid-table, and then go to PSG where you are expected to be a star pretty much every single game, particularly if you're taking on the burden of trying to replace or being part of the project replacing Messi. I just think it's a bad career choice from him. I think he could have gone to a number of clubs.
But the problem is that where does who pays the 40 million? And like ideally in seasons gone past, he would have maybe just gone to a bigger Spanish club. He might have just gone to a Champions League level Spanish club. I think Barca and Real Madrid are kind of sorted in those areas at this stage. But he was being talked about as a kind of Bellingham backup option for Madrid towards the end of the season, but I think that's the problem, isn't it? There's just none of the clubs that he would normally have taken that next step with are going to be paying that 40 million release clause, and ultimately at this point, the way that Spanish football is still reeling from the last few years, like Celta Vigo are only going to take that release clause, I think, which is it's a shame for the players' development, because PSG is a gamble. Even somewhere like Chelsea would have been a gamble. Man City, how much game time would he have got there? Like Liverpool, obviously, after Szoboszlai, no point them going for an attack-minded midfielder.
Dortmund? Do you think Dortmund would be a fun suggestion?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I mean Bellingham replacement in some ways. And they do have that windfall. I like that shout. I do like that shout, Henry. So
there we go, Henry Hill. He's got a McCubbin seal of approval this early on in the episode. Great to see. Let's move on. Look at you two. Let's move on to Rayan Cherki. Talk of the town at the moment. Obviously excelled at the under-21 Euros with France. McCubbs, he has been linked with Chelsea. Is this a move you can get behind?
To be honest, like I said it with Veiga just then, I just struggle to back any move to Chelsea. They do need midfielders, Chelsea, but Rayan Cherki is...
I'm glad it's you saying this, not me. I've got a very difficult relationship with Chelsea fans.
The problem is that you're coming into a club that is really for such a dysfunctional season, under a new manager who's going to be getting to grips with what is still a fairly big squad. Cherki, he'd be entering a kind of attack which is still... doesn't really know what it is. Are they actually going to play with the number 10 next season? I think the problem with Cherki really is that he has had an amazing season. Laurent Blanc is the manager who's got the best out of him. He put trust in him almost instantly. Finally, he started starting games. Like he started 21 games last season, and in the 3 previous seasons he'd only started 9 across that time. So a lot of trust was put in him. I know he's still only 19, like made his debut at 16. So it's kind of mad that we're kind of speaking about Cherki in these terms when he's still a teenager. But he's just been on the block for so long, and he's already had quite well documented kind of troubles at PSG in terms of not getting game time and kind of uncertainty over his future. But it kind of feels like this is not the right time for him to leave, just as things are falling into place for him at Lyon. And I think like Laurent Blanc is a pretty level-headed guy. I think he's managed him really well. He's not been, he's not like been a pushover with him. Like he dropped him in April. He kind of publicly came out after a game and said, I don't think he was playing to his level for like the first half. I can't remember which game it was, but he basically said, in the first half of that game, he was not playing to his level and I wasn't happy with his performance. And then he reinstated him into the team and he was firing again. He really was the kind of creative fulcrum of that side last year. I think he was creating over 3 chances a game. I think he was making over 6 shot-creating actions per game, which is more than Martin Ødegaard last year. But I think the reason was because he was made, like the team was built around him. Like he was put in that number 10 slot. There was lots of question marks over what is his best position before. Whether his future would be on the right or on the left. No, like he is so good that he can be that guy. Like he receives a ton of progressive passes. I think 12.5 progressive passes he receives every game. So if you give him that attacking responsibility, he will deliver. And I think the problem at Chelsea is that there is no guarantee who is going to be the player who will make everything happen in that side. You've got Enzo Fernandez deep in midfield who is going to probably orchestrate most of the Chelsea attacks. You've got Nkunku who is like super versatile and is able to perform a number of roles in the attack. Maybe their prime goal scorer next season. You've got a ton of other players. Obviously Mount has left and that does leave a hole there, but it's hard to know how Pochettino is going to set that team up. And also, I think the Achilles heel with Cherki is that, he does a ton of work on the ball. He does no work off the ball. Like he does not really track back. He doesn't really do much defensive work at all. And I think coming into a side where that will be required of you, of a 19-year-old who really just wants to have fun at this point in his career, like that really that's what you need from Cherki. Like you just need him to express himself on the field and develop as an attacking footballer. It doesn't feel like a great fit for me. I think I don't know what the perfect club is for him. I was thinking almost like Napoli. Like if you could get him in that Napoli team, depending on what Rudy Garcia wants to do with it, if you did switch them to a 4-2-3-1 more permanently, he would be so fun in that attack. And you'd maybe just have to accept he wasn't going to do too much defensive work, but that team in general functions so well that I think he could add something more to that attack.
What about a club like Milan? Need a number 10.
They do.
Need a right winger.
They do. They're dilly-dallying over Kamada, aren't they? Like could lose him to Inter.
Pulisic earlier this week. Would you rather sign Cherki or Pulisic? I think Cherki.
Cherki, The problem is that
really you'd rather sign Pulisic?
Yeah, I'd rather sign Pulisic.
With his injury record.
His injury record isn't as bad as it's been made out to be. He's also the USA captain. I actually think he was pretty good for Chelsea when he was firing hot. I think he just needs to play like consecutive football.
Joe laughing behind the camera
He can laugh all he wants. That
summer of 2020 was pretty special.
No, when Pulisic is given responsibility in minutes, he is pretty decent. And I think for AC Milan, he'd be class. I think to suggest that Rayan Cherki, after half a season of playing well at Lyon, would be a better signing.
I think
than
long
Pulisic.
term.
He's still not convinced by Cherki, but like. but jokes aside, I think that the problem for Milan is that Cherki is probably going to cost around 40 million euros. Do Milan have the balls to put 40 million on a teenager? I don't think they do. I don't think they do. I think Napoli are more likely to have that.
I don't think Pulisic is a bad signing either. I'd just rather sign Rayan Cherki.
Cherki is more exciting for sure. I feel like I think the thing is with Pulisic, he maybe fills. I don't know. I feel like.
He fits more of the brief that they're trying to fulfill in terms of the player.
But the problem with Pulisic is that like they need a right winger, don't they? How much has Pulisic played on the right like over the last few years at Chelsea? He was great there for Dortmund, but it has been quite a while since then. However, I think he would be able to adapt there. I think in some ways he's lower risk. I just don't think Milan stumped that kind of money up for a teenager. But like. He would be cool. Like he'd be an upgrade on Diaz. I really, really like the guy. But I do think one more season at Lyon, maybe sign a new contract so they can make some proper money on him next year. Not too long a contract, mind, because then he might just like tie himself in for too long. But I think I feel like Napoli would be fun. But I don't mind the Milan shout. I just can't. I just feel like they wouldn't do it.
Well,
they're umming and ahhing too much this summer. They need to sort their summer out because it's getting a little bit.
Getting a bit silly.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit silly. I mean, I say that it's still early.
It's
still early days, isn't it? We were saying last week there's still a lot of the transfer windows to go. Like, it'll be interesting to see where they put that Tonali money.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the interesting thing about Cherki to Lyon is when Pulisic was linked with Milan, Lyon, offered about 10 million euros more, and all the papers were like, "Oh, that's because Lyon's owners." Trezor, I think his name is.
Textor,
gets on really well with the Chelsea owners. So there's there's an inbuilt relationship there. Could they try and use that to build their relationship over Cherki? Not necessarily this summer, but maybe in summers in the future. Maybe. Right, let's move on to Ivan Fresneda, 18-year-old right back. You might remember him from the January window because he's been quite strongly linked with a move to Arsenal back then. And Dortmund, I think at the time. Arsenal have obviously gone down a different route, signing Urian Timber yesterday, and they are now well stocked with players that can play at right back, so that move doesn't look like it's going to happen. He also apparently wasn't very interested in joining Arsenal at that particular time because he wanted to stay and get more game time, which is quite a mature decision. He's now being linked with Barcelona. I think it's about 14 million euros as their new right back. Quite an exciting move. And with Barcelona signing Inigo Martinez, they've got Christensen, they've got Araujo and Koundé. Koundé can also play at right back. It feels like Koundé will probably be their starting right back at the start of next year. But Fresneda looks like someone that it's kind of low risk and he's got some interesting qualities. What I find quite difficult to place him about whether he'd succeed at Barcelona is he's super young. He's only 18. I think he was third in Europe for minutes for a player under 18 last season, behind Gavi and this guy who played for Troyes, who I'd never heard of. But either way, got a load of minutes, which is really promising. But it's really his defending that really stood out, which is unsurprising, playing for a Real Valladolid side that went down on the final day, despite actually going unbeaten through their final 3 league games of the season, which included a 3-1 victory over Barcelona. He also had a storming game against Vinicius Jr., which does well to anyone's reputation. I think he made 8 tackles against Real Madrid. And it's really his defensive side that is really strong. Not very good in the air. I think he won about 30% of his aerial duels last year. And not very good on the ball, really, either. I think he ranks in the bottom 40% for passes attempted and passes completed. But obviously, he's playing for a side that don't really dominate the ball. So it's almost too difficult to judge him. So what I like about him is that there are some attributes that are very attractive. And he's only got to kind of be better than Serginho Dest. And then it's kind of a success. Because at the moment, I think he's going to be a backup to Jules Koundé. Learn his trade, still only 18. Another exciting Spaniard joining Barcelona as well, which I think does matter for them and their relationship with their fans. So I'm personally not too bad of fan of him going to Barcelona. Could he go to a more middling club and get instant game time potentially?
Yeah, I was going to think surely someone like Villarreal who have got Juan Foyt still playing out right back at times.
He's quite good at right back though.
He is quite good at right back, but it just seems that for that price point, that's the kind of signing that they're going in at the moment. Got Ben Brereton Diaz through the door, big signing,
huge, Big Ben.
Yeah, Big Ben indeed. But yeah, I agree with you. I think he obviously could go to Barcelona, but I still think he wouldn't quite get the minutes that perhaps he wants at this point at his time. So I do think that someone like a Betis or a Villarreal would probably make more sense at this point in time. But where's the money?
Where is the money? Although it does look pretty cheap as well, and they did go down, as I said. So yeah,
maybe they want someone a bit more defence-minded, right? Because Alejandro Balde is going to be like,
Flying
you know,
forward.
he just does fly. And okay, like the right side of Barca's attack, you know, you could do with, you know, an overlap there, but at the same time, like, I think having that defensive solidity was what won Barca the title last year. And yeah, Jules Koundé, in some ways, Jules Koundé is more expansive as a centre back than he is a right back. So like, yeah, I think stylistically it maybe does fit a bit more.
I like it. Right, let's move on to Kephren Thuram, Henry, because is that move to Liverpool happening? What's the latest according to Football Daily sources?
Yeah, well,
secret they don't exist, but you know, what have you heard?
Well, essentially, I think, as I said earlier, Szoboszlai going in there has taken away the need for a real kind of box to box. If you think about it, and they're linked with Romeo Lavia as well, and we've been saying they perhaps need someone more in the mould of Fabinho as a potential sort of heir to that position. I do think Lavia, for a pretty similar price point, I think
might be about £10 million more.
Yeah, I think which for Liverpool is fine. I think he's probably the one to go to. I mean, if you look at their heat maps as a comparison, Lavia really is that kind of all-action defensive midfielder everywhere, whereas Kephren Thuram much better at going forward. If you look at his attacking numbers, 3 times as many passes into the final third, double the total carrying distance, which tells you that Lavia is really just there sweeping up the ball, knocking it out, and sort of marshalling the space in front of that defence, which I actually think is probably something that Liverpool need more. If you consider sort of McAllister as more of like a conductor, Szoboszlai an unbelievable creator, then I think they need a more defensive-minded midfielder to sort of complete the sort of the midfield of the future, as it were, in terms of the Liverpool signings. Yeah, that kind of leaves Kephren Thuram in a bit of a difficult place, because all accounts, this was the move that he really wanted across the summer. I'm not surprised. I think, as I said, 40 million euros is a pretty good option. Very exciting guy. 2 goals, 4 assists last season. We've seen a lot of his. You watch his highlight reel, it's him just dancing past midfielders. Technically gifted, son of Lilian Thuram, brother of Marcus. So yeah, you know, good footballing heritage, if anything.
Good
so
stock.
yeah, absolutely. And he does need to leave Nice, although I like the manager that they've brought in. I'm not the Italian guy.
Farioli,
who had a choice between Sunderland and...
No. We never even went there. Tony Mowbray is staying at the Stadium of Light.
Sunderland
I've
or
done
the
a
Côte
complete U-turn
d'Azur.
on him in the last 12 months.
Yeah, well, I mean, either way, I think they're trying to get themselves back in the right place, because they're really an underperforming side, aren't they, Nice? They really should be a lot higher up the table than they are. If you look at the players that they have at their disposal.
And they're cash. Well, for now, at least
cash,
Mr. Jim
yeah.
Ratcliffe.
I think this is something that's going to rumble on for a bit. I'm intrigued to see if he leaves at all. He hasn't played tons of top-level football. You look at the other options. Could West Ham maybe look at him as a Declan Rice replacement, potentially? I think he's got that kind of ability to pick up the ball, drive forward. His tackle success rate's not very strong, but he's very good at blocks, which is kind of what Declan Rice was all about, really. Just positionally, a very strong, intelligent guy.
Well, I think if you signed him and another more defensive-minded midfielder...
Apparently they've started talks with Tyler Adams, which I really think they should go. I think they should just try and get that over the line. I think Tyler Adams is a very solid kind of option alongside any midfielder, as you kind of just mentioned there. So yeah, could someone like Milan later down the window maybe have a look at him?
Maybe.
If Lazio get a bit of a windfall this summer, I think that's the kind of midfielder they could go for, to maybe look as a long-term replacement for Milinkovic-Savic if he ever leaves. These are the kind of clubs that I think potentially could be in the running if by the end of the window Ratcliffe needs to sell, if Nice needs to make money and Thuram's available on a bit of a discount. I think this could be more of a surprising transfer down the line. But yeah, I think he's a super exciting guy. Liverpool's not the move for him, though, I think, at this point in time. Maybe Newcastle, maybe, but I don't know if they necessarily need a midfielder of his profile.
After signing Tonali, I feel like him and Bruno, and yeah, it doesn't feel like they'll go for it.
So I'm not quite sure what Thuram's going to do.
Yeah.
PSG.
He's also lucky to be on this list. I think he's 22. He's not really a wonder kid, but yeah, he's still very young. But yeah, that is a little bit disappointing. I was pretty pumped for him to go to Liverpool, but as soon as the Szoboszlai move came through, he's got more of a unique profile that Liverpool haven't had in midfield for a long time. Kephren Thuram feels more similar to players they've had in the past, but equally looks really, really promising. Cubs, let's move on to a player who I don't know a lot about, Desiree Doue. Thoughts on this? Who is he?
Yeah, Desiree Doue. We've kind of we've actually spoken about him quite a lot over this season. I feel like every Wonder Kids episode he's kind of come up. I feel like we spoke about him maybe with Hamill back in October.
I missed that episode.
Yeah, I think you might have been away. I feel like whenever you're away, I'll be like in charge of picking the episode, and I'll be like, oh, let's just do a Wonder Kids one. They're always quite fun, aren't they? And yeah, Desiree Doue, I think what's notable about him, he had only just turned 18,
Wow.
and he got a lot of minutes last year for Rennes. Obviously, Rennes, famed now for giving lots of minutes to young players. Bruno Genesio's done a great job there in terms of the kind of players he's blooded over the years, and players like Sulemana who been moved on for decent money, etc. Doue as well, who's still really yet to properly catch fire, but is still an immense talent. But
you can make a mean compilation of Jeremy Doku.
Oh yeah,
on Twitter.
Euro expert absolutely loves him. He's always touting him for something, but without the goals.
He is. I mean, that's the thing. Yeah, but he's a bit like a kind of overpowered FIFA player, isn't he? Like you could bring him on in a game and he could just go past every single player and look like look like the next Ballon d'Or winner. But there's just something missing there clearly, because otherwise he would get more game time, wouldn't he? But nevertheless. Doue, I mean, he's already been linked with Newcastle, PSG, Barcelona. More recent reports, Leipzig and Dortmund apparently interested in him. And I think what is interesting about him is that he doesn't necessarily have a fixed position yet. I think probably like a central attacking midfielder, but he likes to drift out right. He's played as a central midfielder. He's also played up front. I think he played on the left at points last season as well. So very, very adaptable, and looks quite like tactically intelligent for his age. Like his tackle numbers are really good. He's making almost 3 tackles per game. And just like the timing of his runs looks really good. Like the goal, I think he scored 4 goals and 1 assist in just over 1,300 minutes. Also scored in the Europa League as well last year. And yeah, all his goals are just really intelligently taken. Like often kind of just like picking the ball kind of in the half space just inside the box, and just like really good finishing. But yeah, so I guess what counts against him is whoever would be coming in for him, there's not necessarily a clearly defined role which he would be stepping into in a team. But I can kind of see that with Newcastle. They need someone on the right, someone who could also play, who could also get minutes in the centre, someone who doesn't need to play every game at the moment. He's only just turned 18. He's already got like a lot of experience compared to most players his age. He's actually represented by Mikel Silvestre, friend of the channel.
Agent
we had it.
Mikel.
Yeah, we had him on the Football Social once a few years ago.
Love it.
Agent Mikel, and he was actually speaking. I can't remember which publication he was speaking to, but he was saying how what was really impressive was that 17 last season, he was still doing his like baccalaureate, which is like the French version of A levels.
Love it.
Loads
of baccalaureate.
Like baccalaureate. It's serious stuff. Like people do it. Like, I know I have a couple of friends who did it instead of A levels in the UK, and it's like it's serious stuff. IB, it's serious stuff. Like you have to it's like GCSEs on steroids. Like you have to
do like 10 A levels.
10 A levels, all to quite a high standard. So he was doing that whilst playing in Ligue 1 last season.
You've got a little genius on that.
Yeah, exactly. So clearly, intelligent guy, like hardworking. Like Silvestre was, kind of. I guess Silvestre obviously would be blowing his trumpet a little bit, but like he was saying, he had to wake up early every morning in the week and do all his schoolwork
Sounds
before
like
going to training.
Guy.
But yeah, so like clearly has a lot of application in him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been getting picked like he did. Lots of minutes off the bench, but was making an impact off the bench. And apparently, Newcastle scouts were looking at him last year. But I kind of feel like Newcastle. Yeah, it would be amazing, but like going to that would be a big move for him. Like going to a Premier League club a big Premier League club that have just made it back into the Champions League. Like that's I mean, it would be amazing, but I just don't know how quickly he would be able to earn the trust of Eddie Howe in that sense. I still think it would be a great experience, but I feel like I just feel like the step between Liga and the Bundesliga, going somewhere like Leipzig might be a slightly better fit for him. Just clubs which have a bit more experience with developing, really young raw players, and have that kind of very well-defined system of like giving you those skills, like methodically kind of going through that and essentially upping your value as a player, and especially someone with the kind of well-rounded skill set of Doue. I feel like the coaching he'd receive in Germany would help him specialise a little bit more, whereas I feel like if you go to Newcastle, it's like you're going there to be a Newcastle player and you're not going there necessarily to develop your all-round skill set. I'd love to see him go to Germany, to be honest, if he doesn't stay on for another year.
There we have it. Doue to RB Leipzig. You heard it here first. Right, let's move on to a move that looks like it's actually likely to happen in Giorgi Mamardashvili, because Bayern, according to Fabrizio Romano, have opened talks with the Georgian goalkeeper. He's actually only had sort of a season and a half of regular minutes. He was swapping in and out with Jesper Cillessen in 21-22. Last year in 22-23, he played every single game for Valencia. And I was having a little look at his numbers. Nothing particularly exceptional. I think his save percentage was 71%. That was 16th in La Liga. But then this is a guy that was playing behind a pretty dreadful defence. I think they conceded something like the fifth most shots in La Liga as well. So he's facing a ton of traffic. And if you watch his highlights, personally, I didn't tune in for many Valencia full 90s last season because I'm not a masochist, but watching the highlights, like, he's a really, really good goalkeeper off his line. Not necessarily going to be, sweeper keepering in the same way as Neuer or Onana and starting, attacks from deep. But this is a guy who has got this amazing sort of handball style save where he comes out a bit like Kasper Schmeichel does and is so good in the one-on-one. So maybe an interesting keeper for Bayern to develop. Maybe has as a number 2, plays in a few cup games, few league games next year, and then moves on to bigger and brighter things. But apparently, becomes their number 1 when Neuer, steps down eventually, not moves on. But apparently, obviously, Kane is their priority or a striker is their priority. Then they are going to look at this goalkeeping situation. So it depends how much money they have left over. I don't think it would be a seriously expensive move because Valencia aren't particularly cash flush at the moment. But yeah, fair play to him for getting to this level already and having a club like Bayern searching after you. Really, really interesting.
Dukes, on the subject of goalkeepers, who was it you were saying that Inter Milan are looking at as a potential...
Trubin, the Shakhtar Donetsk goalkeeper, who also is Ukrainian, apparently being looked at as the Onana replacement if Onana goes to Man United. I think United would have to get up to a quite serious level, I think, for Inter to consider selling Onana, despite the fact they do potentially need to sell one star this year. But yeah, good to have a backup already lined up in Trubin. Apparently that's who they're looking at. Inter Milan fans, you might know more on that topic. Henry, let's wrap up with a discussion about Oscar Gloukh. Am I pronouncing that right?
I think it's Gloukh.
Gloukh.
Yes. He big sensation coming out of the under 21 Euros at the moment. Israel's sort of playmaker, the talisman of this side. And he's had a really rapid rise to fame over the last 2 years, certainly. I mean, came through at Maccabi Tel Aviv, where he scored 7 in 25 appearances in the Israeli Premier League. I watched sort of a show reel of his time there. Once again, just loads of really great sort of deft flicks over the keeper, some really smart finishes. He's a very skillful player, can play behind the striker or can play out wide. Just clearly in that side was someone who just got the ball and was allowed to kind of do what he wants. Almost sort of a Rayan Cherki light, as it were. And then the under-19 Euros last year, scored 4 goals against England as well. I think he was one of the sort of players of the tournament, got in the team of the tournament there. And then this summer, again, Israel, who've got to, by the time this goes out, it'll be the game will have happened, the semi-final between Israel and England. But for Israel to get to the semi-finals is a remarkable achievement.
Lee Carsley showing them a lot of respect as well.
Absolutely, and they beat the host nation Georgia on penalties. Georgia, who are flying throughout this tournament, with Mamardashvili in goal, as it were. So yeah, and he's got 2 assists in the tournament and scored the winning penalty. And then last January he got I think it's about €7 million move to Red Bull Salzburg, who only go after sort of the best young talent that they can sort of get their hands on there. What an amazing club for developing talent there. And he's been really exciting for them. He started off exciting, got 2 goals for Salzburg, 1 assist, but he's created 5 big chances. So his last few games of the season weren't particularly great, but obviously he's coming in January. Obviously he's leaving sort of his home country for the first time. It's never going to be easy completely adjusting to sort of a completely new experience in the Austrian Bundesliga. For these reasons, because apparently he's being looked at by the likes of Arsenal, City, Barca, Villarreal, Monaco, Milan. For these reasons, I think he should stay at Red Bull Salzburg for another year. His agents come out and said that they're going to have to talk to the club if there's offers coming in, because plenty of clubs want him. This is the Guardian reporting it. But I mean, if you're Red Bull Salzburg, you've already sold Sesko and Seywald. I don't know if I've pronounced that right, but 20 million. That's 40 million euros of sales to Leipzig. Can you believe? They've sold another 10 million euros of players as well. They don't really need to sell anyone else at this point in time. And if I was Oscar Gloukh, I know obviously he's in an exciting position right now. He's in the spotlight, but he's played a lot of football over the last few years. For me, he should be staying at Red Bull Salzburg, who obviously have a great system of managers coming through as well. He should do one more season there, and if he really is the real deal, then he's going to get a move. I don't think there's any rush for him to leave a club at this moment in time. But yeah, I think any side looking for an exciting winger, someone behind the striker, I imagine it'll be about the €20 mark, which opens it up to a lot of clubs, then yeah, maybe worth looking at Gloukh. But if I was him, stay put for now. But really exciting player. If you haven't seen him, go check him out.
Love it. Guys, viewers, what do you think of those rundowns? What do you think of those players? What are the perfect destinations for them? Let us know in the comments down below. And let's move on to our quickfire questions. So the first quickfire question, people wanted us to talk about Ancelotti going to Brazil in 2024. This is quite exciting, McCubbs. Long talked about. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we were discussing this before, Henry, weren't we? About him going there. I mean, yeah, he will be joining like on the eve of the Copa America. Straight in there. I don't mind it. I feel like as long as that transition is managed well over the next 12 months, I think it's a good move. Like, Ancelotti is a tournament specialist. I know he hasn't managed at an international tournament yet, but I think Brazil going to that Copa America is clear favourites. I know Argentina won the World Cup, but Messi will have had a year playing at Inter Miami by that point. Will he still be at the level? Probably will still be at a pretty good level, to be fair. Like, and he always puts in great performances for Argentina, but I think squad-wise, Brazil, there's no match for them. I think that I'm not sure if there's been a Copa America where like Brazil have been so much stronger than the opposition. So I feel like it's good timing for Ancelotti to go into a job like this. And he knows a ton of that squad already. He's had a huge role to play in Vinicius, the development of Vinicius, in the development of Rodrigo, knows Casemiro well, of course. Eder Militao. I'm probably missing a couple of players here and there, but yeah, like I think it's great. But I can see, Henry, you had a few concerns, right, about the fact that he's not going to be fully in the role until the tournament.
Yeah, it's always difficult. We've seen it in the past, sort of. So the Fluminense manager, I think he's called Finese, has been given the job for 1 year. Forgive me if that's
qualifying.
Yes, so he's going to do it for 1 year, and they've said he's not a caretaker manager. He is the manager. It's just for one season. So they're trying. The Brazilian Football Federation are trying to make it out to not disrespecting him, and apparently they've chosen him because he plays very similar tactics to Ancelotti. So, but even for him to go through the whole year prepping this side and have to bow out for the tournament, I don't know if that, for me, it just creates a bit of a bad energy around it. I don't know why they don't just let him do the tournament and then Ancelotti comes in clean slate. For me personally, that makes sense. Then again, the opportunity to get Ancelotti, I think the first foreign manager in 65 years for Brazil, which is a big statement by the country. And yeah, as you said, ticks pretty much every single box in terms of what you want. I think they are probably going to be favourites for the next World Cup, even at this point in time.
Favourites for every World Cup, though.
They are true, but they've underperformed in the last few.
I agree.
I think, but often their managers not always been as elite as they could be. I mean, what was it, Dunga at certain points over the last... So I think it's exciting. I just hope that they manage this transition well, because I am slightly worried about it. You can just see some bad blood brewing in that situation, but this is bigger. Managing Brazil is a huge honour, so maybe if the guy just respects that it's for one season, got Fluminense to focus on as well, maybe it will all work out. But yeah, it's just an interesting timing. But I guess what else could they have done? They wanted to get Ancelotti, they've got him. He was going to stay at Madrid for 1 more year, gives Madrid time to plan. In many ways, I guess it maybe falls back into place, but let's see.
Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting statement saying, we want to get this guy in because he plays the same tactics as Ancelotti, who's famous not really for caring that much about tactics. He's a very pragmatic manager. He can play with whatever system he gets or whichever players that he gets. It's mainly about man management is supposedly his biggest skill, which is an achievement in itself and crucial for international management. I mean, look at Southgate over the last couple of seasons. From Real Madrid's perspective, you've basically got a 1 year audition going on, probably between Xabi Alonso, Raul. I think it's between Xabi Alonso and Raul, to be honest, because they could have got Nagelsmann this summer if they wanted to. They could have fired Ancelotti or asked him to move on and brought in Nagelsmann. So it's not a great reflection on Nagelsmann that they're not willing to go for him now, unless there was some stipulation where he was like, look, I just don't want to work for the time being. I've been so badly damaged by Bayern. I just want to wait for a little bit longer and then take a job. But for me, it's as long as Xabi Alonso does a good job at Bayer Leverkusen or continues on his current trajectory, I think it'll probably be him taking over in 2024.
I think signing Nagelsmann, you still have to pay Bayern Munich.
That is true as well.
I think he still comes with a pretty hefty fee, which I suppose if you're Real Madrid, you're looking at and thinking, well, Ancelotti's fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think Xabi Alonso just slightly makes more sense given that he is an ex-Real Madrid player. He's very, calm, which is a big benefit against Nagelsmann. He's got a reputation for getting along well with all his players. It kind of just seems like it fits more of the Ancelotti continuum going to Xabi Alonso.
It's what's crazy. Xabi Alonso is from the Basque Country. The amount of managers that area of Spain alone is producing, I think there's 5 in the Premier League. It's nuts. Like Mikel Arteta,
Unai Emery,
and he's obviously from the similar Andoni, the new guy that's come in. I think
they all played in the same. They all played in the same football team. Arteta, Iraola, and Xabi Alonso.
It's crazy that this one area of Spain is just producing these manager masterminds. I love it.
Absolutely. Okay, very quickly, final question. Wilf Zaha, supposedly according to Sky Sports News, has got 4 options on the table. Lazio, Fenerbahce, Al Nassr, Crystal Palace. Never thought those would be 4 options for any players. What a random selection. McCubbin, you are Wilf Zaha. What are you doing?
Oh, I don't know.
Obviously, we don't know the contracts on everything.
I mean,
200k from Crystal Palace.
I would assume that Lazio is probably the least. No, Fenerbahce is probably the least amount of money. Lazio probably third least. I think Palace is probably the second best.
And then Al Nassr the most. I mean, it's hard. It is hard to turn down Saudi if you're that age and you're getting that one last huge payday.
Do you not think he would have done it already?
Yeah, potentially. I think personally, like Zaha's apparently, agreed these deals, and it's just going to choose one, which is pretty bizarre. Keeping them all on tenterhooks. I feel like Zaha would have actually confirmed a deal by now with one of these clubs, were he not still thinking about Palace. There's something there, I think.
Super Roy confirmed.
Well, Super Roy confirms exactly. Loves the guy, and if they are offering him mega money to stay, I kind of feel like, I feel like Palace. He might just stay at Palace, but I would go Italy for sure. Come on, the amount of players who have found a new lease of, not that he needs to find a new lease of life. He has been brilliant for Palace for a number of years now, just isn't quite as relied upon as he was before. But I think, there's a reason why Loftus-Cheek went to Milan. It's because English players have gone there, gone to Serie A and had a great time in recent years. You kind of need the kind of, the Chris Smalling or the Jadon Sancho to go to a new country and prove that it can happen. I think that's quite a thing, especially for someone like Zaha, who has basically been at the same club his whole life, not really left South London. The one time that he didn't have a great time of it, unwanted media attention, etc. So yeah, I think whatever he if he chooses to leave England, I think he will be a bit scared about it, and I think that's why he's tempted by Palace. But yeah, I'd go to Italy. For sure. It's just, Serie A is a really, really fun league to be a part of right now, and he can, it's so funny that Lazio just love signing aging forwards, don't they? They absolutely love it. But it's, it worked for them last season.
It did indeed. Henry, I know you've got a train to catch, so very quickly, where would you go?
Yeah, why not? Lazio, not for too long though, just 2 years. I don't think they're going to get out the group stage, the Champions League, which is why he'll be going there, really, to play Champions League.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm going there as well. It's definitely the romantic option, is it? Go and join the Bianco Celesti. Guys, that's been Continental Club for another week. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Get your suggestions on where those players and Wonderkids should go, what you make of Ancelotti, Wilf Zaha. Let us know in the comments down below. As I said, Henry's got to go catch a train, but go check out yesterday's Team Talk featuring myself, Sam, Sharky, and Faisal from SDS. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll catch you later in the week. Bye-bye.